What is going on, YouTube? It is M1X MacBook Pro event Eve. It is coming tomorrow, and I'm here with Bram Shank. It's been a while. So we have him on the show. We're going to break down everything that we're expecting to see in the event. So before we get started, guys, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button and click the bell. Bram, it's a pleasure to have you on as always.
It's a pleasure to be here. I do feel like it's been a while. I want to make this a recurring thing. We need to do our own show together.
We got to do that. Leave a like if you're into that. Absolutely. As we cover your favorite tech and video games. He's Bram Shank. I'm Chris Grant Jr. It's the Grant and Geek Show. All right, so it is October 17th, the day before the Apple October 18th Unleashed event. So before we get into what we're expecting to see and the M1X MacBook Pro, for those of you guys watching who don't know Bram and kind of the work that he does, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself and what you're getting into now? You got some exciting stuff out here.
Definitely. Thank you, Chris, for the segue. I've been a tech enthusiast ever since I can remember. I've recently become a tech analyst within the last couple of years, doing that full time, blogging, podcasting, all those things of the like, and I'm really having a blast doing it. I'm realizing that that's my true passion, and it's something I want to keep doing. I wake up and I look forward to it every day. And so what I did is I started my new firm. It's called Tech Render. So you guys can go ahead and subscribe to that on Instagram. We just started off on Instagram right now. We'll be expanding soon. That's the word Tech Render, and it's spelled RNDR. So you guys can go ahead and follow that, and we'll keep you up to date on all the latest tech developments, hardware, software. Anytime Apple releases an update or anything, we have it right at that second, right on our feed, ready to go. So you be sure to subscribe to that before the event. That way you don't miss a beat.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, to have that kind of stuff at the tip of your fingers. I saw some of your virtual kind of slide-through unboxings for the Apple Watch. That stuff is awesome. You're not going to want to miss it, so definitely check that out. The name will be right here, Tech Render, on the screen. And then also, of course, links to everything we talk about in this show will be down in the description below. So, Bram, huge fan of your work. I loved what you did with Appleosophy. I'm super excited for Tech Render and the stuff that you're doing now. It couldn't be a better time. Yeah, it's a new chapter for sure. Not only for you, Bram, but also for all of tech potentially, as we await this M1X MacBook Pro that could be coming tomorrow. So let's start with the invite, as I feel that's kind of our first initiation into what this event is going to be. So it's called Unleashed, and we have it up on the screen now. You've got almost like warp speed effect on the Apple logo. It looks like they're in space, and it says Unleashed. Obviously, to me, I think this is a pure reference to speed. What did you get from the invite?
Well, obviously, like you said, it has that warp speed, kind of Star Wars looking aspect to it, which is kind of cool. The word Unleashed, if you look back at that, if you search apple.com for that, the only other time the word Unleashed is used is one in a press release for M1 last year, and then number two on the 27-inch, the old iMac, and it says Performance Unleashed. So Apple likes to use the word unleashed in terms of performance and huge leaps in performance, to be exact. I joked on Twitter that the tagline for this new computer will be quantum leaps ahead.
Oh, you think like a quantum computing reference, or just like a huge...
It's just a play on play on words.
I was like, M1X, could it be?
You know, like when they used to have the marketing terms, like the MacBook Air was thin, light, years ahead.
Yeah,
like light years ahead.
Yeah, or like power is in the air or something like that. Yeah. For sure. Okay, yeah, no, definitely. That's awesome that you were actually digging into the history of when it was used previously with Apple as a way to kind of get an idea. And it's interesting that it's only ever been used with the Mac. This word kind of confused me personally. I think when you use the word Unleashed, because we know that they think about everything that they do in all of their marketing, I think, okay, well, it's not something that we've really ever seen before. So are they saying what Unleashed? Is it the Mac Unleashed? Is it M1 Unleashed in the form of the X variant?
Unleashing Apple Silicon, presumably, right?
Yeah.
The rumors here, there's some M1X tidbits I have here. Earlier this week, leaker Ross Young. Now, leaker Ross Young, he's fairly new on the scene, but he does have a 100% accuracy rating according to Apple Track. So it's kind of interesting that he's making claims here. He says we can definitely expect a 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pro with a mini LED display and 120 hertz refresh rate.
That's what I need.
So that means silky smooth scrolling on that trackpad, and it means all the things we love to talk about when it comes to displays.
Yeah.
Higher contrast ratio, deeper blacks.
Right.
This display could be stunning, and its closest kin would be what we've seen on the M1 iPad, the 12.9 inch.
With my experience, like right now, I actually don't use the M1 iPad Pro. I'm using the 2018 iPad Pro because I was so, my whole experience with that. Anyway, not gonna go into that.
That's a sore spot.
Yeah, it's a sore spot for me in terms of software. Hardware, the thing is phenomenal. But as far as the MacBook Pro M1X, what kind of performance? Because, M1, right, is already a beast of a machine. Totally kind of just was a superstar in the computing world. Intel is still super sore about it. They wanted Apple to leave and then come back. Like, oh, we couldn't kick it on our own. We couldn't really do it. But M1 has been a superstar. And so now looking forward, what can M1X actually improve upon for people who maybe they were pro or semi-pro, prosumer, and M1 really answers all their needs. They can edit 4K video. They can do a lot of different things. You get 16 gigs of RAM on a, 512 or a terabyte MacBook Pro M1. What is M1X going to do that's just going to make it like, okay, this is for the serious pros?
Well, and here's the thing. When you think about the term unleashed, I see it as Apple's unleashing their 5-nanometer process. We talk a lot about ARM-based chips, this RISC-based architecture, and how scalable it is. And chips are going to continue to get smaller, believe me. But this year, it's really about scaling that 5-nanometer process. What can we do? How can we push the limits? It's rumored that this chip is going to be, in fact, 5 nanometers, the same 5-nanometer process as M1, hence the name M1X, M1 Extreme, turbo boosted, right? Now, this chip is rumored to have 2 high-efficiency cores. That's down from the 4 efficiency cores in M1. And you're thinking, what? That's less. But it's because they're making more room on that chip for the high-performance cores. That's 8 to 10 high-performance cores is what we can expect. And again, that's according to leaker Ross Young, who's 100% accurate as of now, as of today. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But the biggest thing you asked is, and what I'm hearing from pros is, where their frustrations begin with M1, where they are hitting a ceiling, is with RAM.
Yeah.
People look at this and say, well, six streams of 4K video, how are you ever going to reach that ceiling? People have.
Yeah.
And when you start doing things like color grading and 360 cameras, you have so many streams in that timeline that things start to slow down. One of my buddies, he does it for a living. He crashes his M1 laptop every day trying to do this stuff.
Yeah. The M1 is not the answer for everybody. M1 is the answer for the consumer and even the prosumer, depending on what they do. But obviously, if you're doing movie color grading and stuff like that, yeah, M1 falls apart. And I think that it's just been so long in the making. How many years has it been since we had the 2016 MacBook Pro? Not the 2016, the 16-inch MacBook Pro. People have been waiting 18 months plus for these new MacBook Pros that are going to be X variant, that are going to have more performance cores. Now, let me know if you have any information on this. I was hearing that as far as the RAM on these MacBook Pros, it may max out at 32 gigs. Like, for instance, what Apple did with the M1 was they shifted the way we thought about RAM. So while 8 gigs is still 8 gigs and 16 is still 16, the incredible efficiency and the close proximity from the RAM to the CPU allowed for 8 gigs to sometimes perform closer to 16 and 16 closer to 32. So maybe as Apple's saying, we're that confident in our process that 32 gigs of RAM will get you what 64 used to get you on an inefficient Intel chip.
Yeah, and it really boils down to the architecture, Chris. And I'm glad that you brought this up because you look at, we keep saying RISC-based chips. That's reduced instruction set computing. So what that gives way to, what that allows for, is this memory management that was previously unprecedented, that we've been experiencing for years in an iPad. And I know that's why me and you keep choosing the iPad, because for so many years it's been so much better than a Mac. I have to say, M1 is making me fall in love with the Mac again. Despite what Apple reveals at this event, I'm here for the innovation. I'm not buying one of these things. My iPad's going to last me several years.
Sure, yeah.
With M1. And so I'm here just for the innovation, just to see the industry, flipped up on its head and watch Apple change things all over again.
Again, I think in a lot of ways they're still playing catch up to M1, just in terms, and they've done it. Like there are some laptops that are pushing up and even beating M1 in certain things at this point, and I think M1X is just going to do that for that high level. Now, me, I'm kind of I push my M1 to its limits on a daily as well. Just recording video. I do like music videos and production kind of videos like that. And the H.265 codec has been really good with M1. I've enjoyed that. But yeah, once you start color grading, once you start adding effects, once you start adding so many layers and different things, overlays, even M1 starts to fall apart. And so I'm really excited to see, and I know this is what Apple's going to do, especially if they were confident enough to put Unleashed with the warp speed and all that stuff. They are gearing you up for something unprecedented in terms of computing speed, and it is only the beginning. So with that being said, obviously we're looking forward to M1X MacBook Pro, but we got some other devices that we're looking to see. M1X iMac that was absent in June, right? For WW, and that's not really a hardware event.
For a year now.
It has
People have been looking forward to
Yeah, and we got the M1 iMac, but people are waiting for the M1X Mac Mini as well, possibly. Basically the iMac without a screen, or the MacBook Pro without basically the screen or the keyboard and stuff like that. So in terms of those devices, let's now get into our predictions okay, we know M1X is coming, but what forms will M1X be taking at this event tomorrow? And just give me a rundown of how you see the event going and what you see being released.
Well, Chris, I'm looking forward to John Turnus, their SVP of Hardware Engineering, taking the stage to tell us what's next. I see this chip definitely, this M1X chip definitely being inside a MacBook Pro in two sizes, the 14 and the 16 inch. We've been talking about that for what feels like 2 years now.
Yeah.
Just those numbers, 14 and 16 inch. Yeah. So I feel like that's the given. Everybody's saying 14 and 16 inch MacBook Pros. However, we just finished this last event. Every leaker and their grandmothers said we were going to get a square Apple Watch. Now, we didn't.
True.
I have to say I'm loving the bigger screen, but just caution.
Yeah.
Caution. Just because every leaker's saying it doesn't mean it's so.
Yeah, we
and I like
definitely
that
learned
because
that.
I think Apple's their secrecy is the secret of their showmanship, and I like to tell people that. If you base your expectations on leaks, you're never going to be impressed, because anything that someone can create in a render is going to look cooler than what they
say the new
reveal.
MacBook can fly.
Yeah, anybody can. It'll fold in two. Okay, that looks great in a render, but the technology's not there yet.
Yeah.
It will be in a couple years, and when you finally do get it, you're going to say, that's not innovative. I saw a picture of that 3 years ago.
And what I'm personally hoping for is obviously the 14 and 16 inch M1X MacBook Pro, 120 hertz refresh rate, mini LED, but I really want that Mac Mini. I'm really looking for that M1X Mac Mini. I don't think we're going to get the iMac. I think that would be too much in one event.
I think the iMac Pro, so to speak, I'm just dubbing it that because we don't know names yet. I think that's a wild card. I definitely think, I agree with you, I think we will see a pro level version of the Mac Mini with more ports, more I/O. Yeah, these new computers are going to be phenomenal, Chris, and I'm here for it. You look at the number of GPU cores is rumored to jump from 8 to 16 cores in this new model. And I also heard a rumor that we're going to reduce GPU bottlenecking by raising that 128-bit memory bus to 256 bits.
Okay, wow.
Now we could see buses for more ports. The new MacBook Pros are rumored to see the return of several ports.
HDMI,
HDMI port. Yeah. So your presentations will no longer require an Apple TV.
Right, exactly.
Not every conference room is going to have one of those. I don't know why Apple thought that.
They were like,
We're
wait,
expected
doesn't
to see the
everybody?
return of- Yeah, we're expected to see the return of the HDMI port, SD card slot, and possibly a new generation MagSafe. One of the top rumors that we've seen is also we might be saying bye to the touch bar.
Touch bar, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is great because pros really make use of function keys. When you think of a professional user,
Yeah,
they're making use of shortcuts, of commands. The touch bar making its appearance on a pro computer, it feels like a very consumer tool. Like, hey, you know these iPads and these iPhones that are used to?
Yeah.
And pinching and zooming and dragging? Hey, we're going to bring that to your notebook. That would have been great on a MacBook Air. But for pros, they're like, where did my function key go? And for the first
Right.
couple generations, where did my escape key go?
Right, that was
The one I press several times a day just to exit an application that's in
Right.
full screen.
Yeah.
And it was just, it feels so, the touch bar being on a pro level computer, it feels so tone deaf now. Like they
it does.
completely missed the mark. And I
It
feel
does,
like
it
this
does.
could be Apple admitting that.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know if you've seen my video. I did a video on the touch bar. But
Chris, you've been watching too much Westworld. Come on.
well, you know what? It's funny you say that because I really do think from the Jetsons to Westworld, that is to Star Wars, it is what inspires what we do. And so looking at that, I think that while the touch bar it was a miss. I'll say it's a miss. It had Apple, an entire team dedicated to thinking about touch integration on the Mac. And I think that's something they will eventually have to go back and look at.
I mean, look at these controls that we began seeing in Control Center with Big Sur. They look very finger friendly.
iOS.
They're chunky buttons. They're wide scrolling bars.
Yep.
Why is that in there? You know, what if Apple pulls a rabbit out of the hat tomorrow and says, "Hey, this laptop has a touchscreen"? Wouldn't that be great?
Pandemonium.
The software is built for it.
Yeah.
It'll feel right at home because of Big Sur.
Sure.
I want to ask you, Chris,
Yeah,
what are your thoughts when it comes to a newer generation webcam on these new MacBook Pros? The 1080p webcam is rumored. We will finally get our 1080p.
Yeah.
Okay? But the cloud hanging over this rumor is we might see a MacBook Pro with a notch. What's your take on that?
I'm down for it. I'll tell you what, I'm down for it if they get rid of all the bezels. If we have to deal, because I was down for it. Think about with the iPhone 10 when it first came out. Yeah, it's an ugly notch, and it would have been even uglier if they still had the chin and the forehead, right, and then a notch. It would have been horrible. It would have looked ugly. But we accepted the notch because they said we're taking off so much bezel on this thing. Can you deal with the notch? And even now they're making it even smaller with the 13 Pro Max and stuff like that. So if MacBook Pro were to have a notch, right, for Face ID, because that's still something we hope to see on the MacBook Pro and Macs in general, if we get a notch that includes Face ID, includes a 1080p or maybe Ultra HD, maybe a 2K webcam, heck yeah, bring on the notch. We've already been looking at it every day on our iPhones, and if we can slim those bezels down even more, absolutely, Brom, I'm here for it.
You know, to be honest with you, I am too.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned the iPhone 10. The notch had its place in the status bar, so it wasn't all too obtrusive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obtrusive in nature because it juts out into my display.
Right.
The fact that it's in the status bar where I'm not pushing things all the time.
Yeah.
It was fine. You know, you forget about it within the first 3 days of using the phone. These chips are rumored to be built on the same architecture as the A15 Bionic that we see in the
iPhone
in the iPhone 13 lineup, and that chip has a dedicated hardware accelerator for ProRes.
Ridiculous.
You used to have to put something this big, a tray this big, into your Mac Pro to render ProRes at acceptable
the
speeds.
modules, yep.
It's called an afterburner.
Yep, afterburner. Yep.
This has a dedicated
Afterburner in it.
afterburner in a system and package.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a quantum leap in computing, so to speak.
We're excited, obviously, for the event. Maybe we'll chat it up on the day. Maybe do a reaction video or something like that. Maybe we'll bring in
Definitely.
Will. Yeah, some of those guys. And
Yeah, definitely stay tuned. You know, we have a lot planned with Tech Render. We have a blog. We're starting up a blog very soon. A podcast where Chris will be a reoccurring guest. I'm really looking forward
Surprise!
to that. For now, we don't have a dedicated website yet. We're still working on making that an awesome experience. For now, as far as the blog goes, you can look forward to my take. Just look up Tech Render on an app called Fiedra. It's super easy. We're working with the guys over at Fiedra, and it's an awesome app. I really think they're leaps and bounds ahead as far as what the future of blogging will be. Making it incredibly easy for anyone to start a blog. And to begin, just to start off, it's zero overhead. So I definitely recommend checking it out. It's Fiedra. That's Fiedra. Fiedra. You can go ahead and download it from the App Store, and we'll be churning out some articles, of course, on the new MacBook Pros once they're released.
Links to all of that is going to be down in the description. Go check it out. I mean, he's doing some incredible stuff here for sure. So, wow. I can't wait. Obviously, we can't wait for the podcast to get started on that, recapping, what's going on in the world of tech. Brom, thank you so much, as always, for just joining the conversation here on the Granny Geek Show. Thank you guys for watching. If you've watched, this one was kind of a long one, but we're just so excited for the event, and we really wanted to get those final thoughts out there before it all goes down. So thank you so much, Brom. As we cover your favorite tech and video games, you want to get subscribed and click the bell. He's Brom Shank. I'm Chris Grant Jr. It's the Granny Geek Show.